They thought they had destroyed him. WWE executives, AEW management, and wrestling media all believed that Jon Moxley's career was finished after the backstage incident that left him blacklisted from every major promotion in America. They counted him out, wrote his obituary, and moved on with their corporate-approved storylines while the king of violence rotted in wrestling purgatory. But last night on SmackDown, Jon Moxley proved that real loyalty can't be bought, real friendship can't be broken, and real wrestlers don't stay down when their brothers need them most. His shocking return alongside Roman Reigns didn't just change everything, it exposed the biggest lie in wrestling history and revealed a conspiracy so deep that it threatens to destroy the very foundation of sports entertainment. The moment that shattered the wrestling world happened at exactly 10:47 p.m. Eastern Time, during what was supposed to be Roman Reigns' farewell address to the WWE Universe. The tribal chief, still visibly weakened from his near-death experience in Paris but determined to address the conspiracy that nearly cost him his life, was standing alone in that ring when his voice cracked with emotion that couldn't be faked. "They tried to kill me," Roman's words cut through the silence like a blade, his voice carrying the weight of a man who had stared death in the face and lived to tell about it. WWE executives, corporate board members, people I trusted with my life and career, made a decision that I was worth more dead than alive. The crowd was stunned into silence by Roman's brutal honesty, but what happened next sent shockwaves through the wrestling industry that are still reverberating 24 hours later. "But they made one mistake," Roman continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. "They forgot that some bonds can't be broken by corporate politics, some friendships can't be destroyed by money, and some people will always choose loyalty over career advancement." That's when the lights went out. In the pitch-black darkness that followed, 80,000 fans held their collective breath, sensing that they were about to witness something that would define wrestling history. Then, cutting through the silence like a war cry from hell itself, came the opening notes of Wild Thing, Jon Moxley's music, the song that hadn't been heard in a WWE arena for over 3 years. The eruption from that crowd was deafening, one eyewitness later recalled. People weren't just cheering, they were screaming, crying, losing their minds at the realization that Jon Moxley was back in WWE after everything that had happened. But this wasn't just a surprise return or a feel-good reunion story. As Moxley walked through that curtain, his face told a story of rage, determination, and absolute commitment to war that made everyone understand this wasn't about entertainment, this was about justice. Mox looked different, another observer noted, with a mixture of awe and fear. Not just physically, though he was obviously in the best shape of his life, but mentally. He had the look of someone who had been planning this moment for months, maybe years, and was ready to burn down everything that stood in his way. The reunion between Roman and Moxley in the center of that ring was electric, emotional, and terrifying all at once. These two men, former Shield brothers who had been torn apart by corporate manipulation and industry politics, were standing together again with a shared understanding of what they were really fighting against. "You tried to break us," Moxley's voice carried through the arena sound system with controlled fury that made everyone understand this wasn't a scripted promo. WWE executives, AEW management, corporate sponsors, wrestling media, all of you worked together to destroy the bond between Roman and me because you knew that together, we were a threat to your control over this industry. But Moxley's return wasn't just about reuniting with Roman, it was about exposing a conspiracy that went far deeper than anyone had imagined, involving multiple wrestling companies working together to control narrative, manipulate performers, and eliminate threats to their corporate dominance. "They didn't just try to kill Roman in Paris," Moxley continued, his words hitting the wrestling world like nuclear bombs. "That was just the most obvious part of a systematic plan to eliminate every independent-minded wrestler in the industry. They've been working together, WWE, AEW, Impact, even New Japan, to create a blacklist system that destroys careers and lives." The revelation that major wrestling promotions had been secretly collaborating to control and eliminate troublesome performers sent shockwaves through the industry and explained why so many talented wrestlers had mysteriously disappeared from television despite their obvious abilities. "I was blacklisted," Moxley revealed with cold fury. "Not just from WWE, not just from AEW, but from every major promotion in the world. They created a secret database of problem wrestlers and shared it across companies to ensure that anyone who threatened their control would be eliminated from the industry entirely." But Moxley's most explosive revelation concerned the role that certain wrestlers had played in maintaining this blacklist system, serving as corporate informants who reported on their colleagues' activities, opinions, and loyalties. "Some of your favorite wrestlers are corporate spies," Moxley announced, causing audible gasps throughout the arena. "They attend locker room meetings, record private conversations, and report back to management about who might be developing dangerous ideas about creative control or fair compensation." The existence of a network of wrestler informants explained how wrestling companies always seem to stay one step ahead of talent organizing efforts and why so many promising careers had been mysteriously derailed at critical moments. CM Punk found out about the spy network, Moxley continued, revealing information that recontextualized every major wrestling controversy of the past 5 years. That's the real reason for his backstage incident at AEW. He discovered that people he trusted were feeding information about him to Tony Khan, and when he confronted them, they set him up to look like the aggressor. But the conspiracy that Moxley was exposing went even deeper than backstage politics or corporate control tactics. He revealed that wrestling companies had been systematically manipulating medical information to remove troublesome performers through fake injuries and manufactured health crises. Roman's poisoning in Paris wasn't the first time. Moxley's voice shook with rage as he revealed the scope of the conspiracy. They've been using medical manipulation to eliminate wrestlers for years. Fake injuries, tainted supplements, deliberately dangerous match stipulations, all designed to remove people who threaten corporate control. The systematic use of medical manipulation as a weapon against independent-minded wrestlers represented a level of corporate evil that transformed wrestling from entertainment into organized crime. Daniel Bryan's concussion issues were manufactured. Moxley continued with his devastating revelations. They fed him substances that caused neurological symptoms, then used those symptoms to force his retirement when he started demanding more creative control. But perhaps Moxley's most shocking revelation concerned the role that certain wrestling media personalities had played in the conspiracy, serving as propaganda outlets for corporate messaging while pretending to be independent journalists. Wrestling journalists are on the payroll, Moxley announced, causing panic among media personalities who had built careers on claims of editorial independence. Dave Meltzer, Wade Keller, Ryan Satin, they're all corporate employees disguised as independent reporters, spreading whatever narrative WWE and AEW want the public to believe. The revelation that wrestling media had been completely corrupted by corporate influence explained how certain storylines always received positive coverage while legitimate criticisms of company practices were consistently downplayed or ignored. Every time you read a wrestling news story that defends corporate decisions or attacks wrestlers who demand better treatment, you're reading corporate propaganda written by paid employees who are pretending to be journalists. Moxley continued his systematic exposure of industry corruption. But Roman Reigns, standing beside his returned brother, had his own revelations about the conspiracy that had nearly cost him his life and was continuing to threaten every independent-minded performer in the industry. They have murder contracts. Roman's voice carried the authority of someone who had survived an actual assassination attempt. Written agreements between wrestling companies and corporate executives that authorize the elimination of performers who become too expensive, too difficult to control, or too dangerous to their business interests. The existence of actual murder contracts between wrestling companies represented criminality at a level that transcended sports entertainment and entered the realm of organized crime syndicates. My near-death experience in Paris was authorized by a document signed by Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon, and Tony Khan, Roman continued, his words causing visible shock among everyone in attendance. They literally put a price on my head because I refused to accept reduced creative control and smaller guaranteed money. But the most damaging aspect of Roman's revelations concerned the financial incentives that wrestling companies offered to performers who agreed to participate in elimination campaigns against their colleagues. They pay wrestlers to hurt other wrestlers, Roman explained with obvious disgust. Drew McIntyre received a $2 million bonus for what he did to me in Paris. Seth Rollins has been offered similar money to eliminate CM Punk if he returns to WWE. Cody Rhodes was promised a championship run in exchange for participating in plans to injure independent contractors. The systematic use of financial incentives to turn wrestlers against each other revealed a level of corporate manipulation that made the industry's problems far more serious than creative differences or backstage politics. Every wrestler in this business needs to understand that their colleagues might literally be trying to kill them for money. Roman continued his shocking exposures. Your tag team partner, your best friend, the wrestler you trust with your life in that ring, they might be planning to end your career permanently for a corporate payday. But Moxley and Roman's reunion wasn't just about exposing past conspiracies, it was about declaring war on the system that had created those conspiracies and building something better to replace it. We're not just here to complain about corruption, Moxley announced with determination that made everyone understand this was about action, not just revelation. We're here to destroy the system that enables it and build something better for wrestlers who want to perform without worrying about being assassinated by their own employers. The declaration of war against wrestling's corporate structure represented more than just angry rhetoric, it was the beginning of a systematic campaign to expose corruption, protect performers, and fundamentally transform how the industry operates. Roman and I have been planning this for months, Moxley revealed, explaining why his return had been so perfectly timed and strategically executed. While everyone thought I was blacklisted and finished, I was actually building a network of wrestlers, journalists, and legal experts who are committed to exposing and destroying this corrupt system. But the most significant aspect of Moxley's revelation was his announcement that their war against corruption would involve wrestlers from multiple companies working together to expose corporate crimes and protect each other from retaliation. This isn't about WWE versus AEW or any other promotional rivalry, Moxley explained. This is about wrestlers versus corporate criminals who view us as expendable assets rather than human beings deserving of basic safety and respect. The cross-promotional nature of their resistance movement represented something unprecedented in wrestling history, performers putting aside company loyalties to unite against systematic exploitation and criminal behavior. We have allies in every major promotion, Roman added, his words carrying the weight of a general announcing his army's strength. Wrestlers who are tired of being treated like gladiators in a corporate coliseum, performers who want to wrestle without worrying about being murdered for demanding fair treatment. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came when Moxley announced that the resistance movement had already achieved significant victories that had been kept secret from the wrestling public. 3 WWE board members have already been arrested, Moxley revealed, causing gasps throughout the arena. Federal investigators have been building cases based on evidence we provided, and more arrests are coming. The corporate criminals who tried to kill Roman and eliminate me are going to prison. The revelation that federal law enforcement was already involved in investigating wrestling's corporate corruption elevated the entire situation from industry drama to criminal justice matter with real-world consequences. Nick Khan is wearing a wire, Roman added, dropping perhaps the biggest bombshell of the night. He's been cooperating with federal investigators for weeks, recording conversations, and gathering evidence against other executives in exchange for reduced charges. The news that WWE's president had turned state's evidence against his own colleagues sent shockwaves through the wrestling industry and suggested that the corporate conspiracy was already beginning to collapse from within. But Moxley and Roman's most powerful statement concerned the future they were fighting to create: a wrestling industry where performers could focus on entertaining fans rather than surviving corporate assassination attempts. "We're building a new wrestling company," Moxley announced, revealing plans that could fundamentally reshape the entire industry. A promotion owned by wrestlers, controlled by wrestlers, and operated for the benefit of wrestlers rather than corporate shareholders who view us as expendable resources. The announcement of a wrestler-owned promotion represented more than just another startup company. It was a direct challenge to the corporate control system that had dominated wrestling for decades. Every wrestler who has ever been blacklisted, injured by corporate conspiracy, or threatened for demanding fair treatment will have a home with us, Roman added, his words carrying the promise of sanctuary for performers who had been victimized by the current system. But their most immediate challenge involved protecting themselves and their allies from the corporate retaliation that would inevitably follow their explosive revelations and challenge to established power structures. "They're going to try to destroy us," Moxley acknowledged with grim realism. "Corporate executives, corrupt wrestlers, compromised media personalities, they're all going to attack us with everything they have because we threaten their control over this industry." The realistic assessment of the challenges they faced demonstrated that Moxley and Roman understood they were entering a war that would require sustained commitment and strategic thinking rather than just emotional outrage. "But we're ready for them," Roman declared with confidence born from surviving an actual assassination attempt. "We have evidence, we have allies, we have federal investigators on our side, and most importantly, we have the truth." But perhaps the most significant aspect of their return and revelations was the immediate impact on other wrestlers, many of whom began stepping forward to share their own experiences with corporate manipulation and systematic exploitation. "The locker room is buzzing," one wrestler revealed anonymously. "People are finally talking openly about things they've kept secret for years: the bribes, the threats, the manufactured injuries, the blacklist system." Jon and Roman gave everyone permission to tell the truth. The permission to tell the truth that Moxley and Roman had provided through their courage created a cascade effect that threatened to expose the full scope of wrestling's corporate corruption. "Wrestlers are coming forward with evidence," another performer confirmed. "Audio recordings, financial documents, medical records that prove corporate conspiracy. It's like a dam burst, and all the secrets are flooding out at once." But the most important outcome of Moxley's return and their joint revelations was the hope they provided to wrestlers who had been living in fear of corporate retaliation and industry blacklisting. "For the first time in years, wrestlers feel like they have allies who are willing to fight for them," one veteran performer noted. Jon and Roman proved that corporate control isn't absolute, that resistance is possible, and that wrestlers don't have to accept exploitation and abuse as normal business practices. The inspiration that their courage provided to other performers suggested that the resistance movement could grow beyond just two former Shield brothers to become an industry-wide transformation. This could be the beginning of the end for corporate control over wrestling, an industry analyst observed. "If enough wrestlers unite behind Jon and Roman, if enough evidence comes forward, if federal investigators continue building cases, we could see fundamental changes in how this business operates." But regardless of what the future holds, Moxley's return to WWE alongside Roman Reigns has already achieved something unprecedented. It proved that some bonds are stronger than corporate manipulation, some friendships can survive industry politics, and some people will risk everything to fight for what's right. "They tried to break us apart because they knew we were stronger together," Moxley concluded his historic promo. "They failed. We're back, we're united, and we're going to destroy every corrupt system that threatens wrestlers and their families. The wrestling world will never be the same." Jon Moxley is back, Roman Reigns survived assassination, and together they're leading a revolution that could save professional wrestling from the corporate criminals who nearly destroyed it. The Shield may be broken, but the bond between brothers is eternal, and that bond just declared war on everyone who thought they could control, manipulate, and eliminate the wrestlers who make this industry possible. Everything has changed, and it's only the beginning.